I don't believe in the revolution anymore.
I know both of you without really knowing you.
Beirut is still home, whatever happens.
And you fell in love with the owner.
Yeah, kind of. Where Jemaisi is, like geographically, it attracted people from different backgrounds.
Dressed, well-dressed, underdressed, overdressed, and that all happens in Jemaisi.
I have the solution for you people.
Sip Cafe brought Hala into your life.
Are you serious? And they're like, yeah, this is what goes on in Lebanon.
And then when I did it, and I was successful in it, I just didn't have the passion for it.
Never voted in Lebanon before.
Getting the chance to speak to both of you here is, I think, part of the reason why I started podcasting to begin with. It's because I know both of you without really knowing you. Omar, I'm a fan of yours for personal reasons. Sip Jemaisi is my go-to place to do many things, and we're going to get into this. And Hala, you're my mom's favorite person because she may actually start doing yoga because of you. So you're both, in a way, friends, but not really friends. And I think a lot of us are like this in Beirut. Even before we started recording, there's names we both know, but we don't really know them well. Hence, this is the space to get to know each other better.
Yeah.
I'll start off by saying that you're a very important business dynamic duo. And the reason I say business here is because I think the creative spirit and independent entrepreneurship can be best explained by both of you. Deciding to settle in Beirut during the most difficult economic collapse and political paralysis of our generation, let alone the port blast. And we're here, still here, talking about this place. By way of introduction, Omar Jheir Hala Okeili, thank you for coming to MTV.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Let me start by going into why you guys are here together. I briefly heard before we started recording that it's largely your fault, Omar. Sip Cafe brought Hala into your life.
True. Yeah.
So is that really how it happened? You were just a customer and you fell in love with the owner.
Yeah, kind of.
How long ago was that?
So we opened Sip 2017.
Okay.
And Hala had opened her yoga studio 2016, so a year before us.
In Jemaisi.
In Jemaisi as well.
Literally,
Like
right around the block.
right around the corner, yeah.
Yeah.
And she became a client, and I always take care of
I
clients.
like the coffee,
You say you always take care of your clients?
Of my clients, yeah.
I don't. How many wives do you have?
No, I'm very happily married. No. And we started talking, and she would come into coffee after her classes and stuff, and then after a couple of months we started dating, and
So it was fairly quickly.
yeah.
So
pretty
you
much.
opened Sip, you've just established a yoga center, and then suddenly you're falling in love.
You know, when I opened Sarvam and Jemaisi, and when Omar opened Sip, Jemaisi didn't look what it looked like today. So we were mainly the only 2-3 businesses in that street, because Jemaisi was kind of down for the past 3 years before we opened. So all my yoga students and me, we would go to the coffee shop after classes.
Yeah.
So this was the only hub, the only coffee shop in Jemaisi back then. Now there's so many coffee shops.
That's true. Actually, now looking back to 2016, 17, Sip, in a way, filled a void.
Yeah.
And this is where I wanted to start the conversation. Before we get into Sarvam and yoga, which is an important section, I really want to get into the cafe culture first, because that's also where you guys met. So I think it's quite romantic.
Yeah.
My earlier years of Beirut, doing what I do at Sip, did not happen in Jemaisi. It happened mostly in Hamra. And maybe you feel this way too, that I would go to the cafes of Hamra,
True.
some of them long-established cafes, and do exactly what I do at Sip today.
It's true.
Do you feel like Jemaisi inherited something that once defined Hamra and maybe earlier in our lives as well? Because none of us are strangers to Beirut.
No.
Do you feel like Jemaisi has become that?
So Hamra had that trend for the longest period, to be honest. And then you had all your writers, directors, producers, really
Artists.
brains, intellects, and hanging around in cafes casually, reading newspapers back in the day, and building and brainstorming and talking and meeting people. And I think there was a big void after that, after Hamra, and I think Jamaisi is what it is now, where. So when I first opened the coffee shop, I thought there's not many places that you can really go and hang out in Beirut, let alone the coffee trend was almost obsolete in Lebanon. It didn't really exist in terms of specialty coffee, which is a global trend now.
Yeah.
And I thought, let me bring it to Beirut and let me see what happens. Me coming from an Australian background, where we have coffee is a huge part of our lives. So when we opened Sip, it really brought a lot of different parts of backgrounds together in that coffee shop. We have designers, writers again, and that's the void that had, and we filled it up in Jamaisi.
So it's a bit of a stretch here, but did you choose Jamaisi because you felt Hamra had lost a bit of that?
Well, I think Hamra was changing back in the days. Yeah, Hamra was one of the options for me. I was searching for Hamra, but I felt it was still lacking something. There wasn't real. It was changed. It had changed already. You know. But when I walked in Jamaisi and I spotted my location where it was, it's a standalone. There's a nice garden in the backyard. I felt Jamaisi has beautiful architecture. It's only a walk away from downtown.
Yeah.
You know, and downtown was happening back in the days when we opened as well. So I felt there was a bit more culture when it comes to Jamaisi.
The reason I'm going down this road is because I grew up in Hamra.
Same here.
So you did as well. Maybe this is actually a nice way to go back in time
Yeah.
a bit. I would never think of Jamaisi as a destination.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about ancient history. I'm talking about maybe the better part up until the mid-2000s, really, where Jamaisi was maybe a bar or two, and Omar Jheir was distant.
Yeah, yeah, true.
And I remember Torino Express when it first opened, it's 2004, that why would we go to Jamaisi when we can go to Hamra? And the cafes in particular, the cafe culture, to me, my comfort zone, were the cafes of Hamra. Some of them are gone, a few remain, but even well-known establishments, and I'll give you an example. A place like Bread Republic, which I would go to almost every day of my university career, it's just completely changed.
It's changed, yeah.
And I think the word, and I want to play with this word a bit, cosmopolitan, I think is what Jamaisi inherited from Hamra. Now, could I ask you in different ways, is that how you identify yourselves as cosmopolitan Beirutis? And the reason I use this very loaded word is because I think that's the kind of person I'm most attracted to. Meaning, they're comfortable in Jamaisi, but they're not necessarily from Jamaisi, and they're bringing all types of people into one place. So not necessarily the neighborhood, it's more the location and what it resembles in its people. Does that word hold any weight? Maybe I'll ask you first.
You know, I grew up in Hamra too, and up in Hamra actually shaped me as a person because I'm very secular in my head because of that. And I was really brought up in a scene where we never spoke about religion or even knew this person is different or this person is that because of Hamra.
Yeah.
And I think the location of Jamaisi, because it's not full-on Ashrafiyya, but it's also not full-on Hamra, so it kind of merged people coming from different cultures and backgrounds. It felt like ground zero for people, you know? It's like not like unified. People do not feel different in colors, and that made it very liberal. So there's a lot of place for people to feel free in Hamra. So when I opened Sarvam in 2016, I was surprised how many expats there were that were coming to my studio. I never saw expats in Lebanon before. And when I opened Sarvam, I'm like, oh my God, there's like Asians and Chinese and German and people from the UK who live in Lebanon. And that's because I think the location of where Jemaise is, like geographically, it attracted people from different backgrounds. And
Yeah.
yes, today it's one of the, I think it's the only cosmopolitan, purely like really free place to be. People feel, like my students feel very comfortable to walk around and like very not so decent attire. Like
We'll get into that too,
Yeah.
because that's something I want.
It's very liberal. It's pretty liberal compared to the rest of Beirut.
So these two words here, free, or that feeling of freedom, and liberal, that's my identity in Ras Beirut
صح.
growing up. Omar, is that how you relate to the neighborhood, and how you would define yourself? I know it's a bit of an odd question, but being Lebanese, that doesn't really mean anything. That's just a nationality.
Yeah.
That's a passport, if you will. But Cosmopolitan, I think, can merge you with any other city. And to me, Sip could fit in to a multitude of places. It's not Lebanese only. It's something that relates to other places too.
Yeah, I think when you walk into SIP, you feel that it's a cosmopolitan place. From the staff that we recruit, from the communication, from the service, from the interior, from the place, you actually feel, and from most importantly, from the clients, the guests that we get at SIP, and you walk in and you'll feel it. You're like, okay, this is not your typical coffee shop that you know that is around, you know. And I actually like that, because that's kind of my background. I'm a very liberal kind of person. Yes, cosmopolitan. I grew up in Australia, and I've worked abroad, and I've traveled quite a lot, and I like to live that kind of freedom and that kind of vibe and that mood. Leave all justifications aside. You don't need to how can I say, I'm talking about gay, straight, designer, dressed, well-dressed, underdressed, overdressed, and that all happens in Jemaise.
Yeah.
To be honest,
We'll get into the diversity of both of your worlds, if you will, because that's what draws me to a place like SIP, is that it's all-encompassing and it embraces a lot. And I can imagine yoga does the same by default. So we'll go into that.
Yeah.
I want to push one step further on why Jemaise and not Hamra, and I'll throw an anecdote. For me, my identity in Hamra changed in 2008, when that neighborhood became a battlefield. And even though it was short-term, even though it did not last permanently, I think it damaged the neighborhood.
It's true, honestly.
And
I agree.
let alone demographics in terms of poverty today in itself, Hamra has changed. It's hard to lure business back to Hamra. A lot of the cafes simply packed up and left. Some of them are in Badaro, some are not, some have gone. But Hamra, I think there's a dent that's irreversible. Fortunately, post-blast, post-port blast in 2020, I think the identity of Jemaise is unshakable. And part of that is thanks to you in different ways. So that's my way of saying thank you for not shutting down.
Goosebumps.
No, I really mean it.
Yeah.
Let's get into diversity. When I walk into SIP, and I promise we'll get into yoga too. Because
It's same, really.
Okay, well,
We're one.
let's start with cafes, and then you'll tell me a bit about Sarvam. I walk into SIP, and I know that I can't tell who's who and what's what, and I like that.
It's nice.
Meaning, you can have a writer who's parked in the corner, has been writing a book for 2 years.
With his dog.
With his dog. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can have a political discussion in the garden among an up-and-coming political group. You can have even the usual suspects, and by that I mean the graphic designers who are a bit older now, but they're still with their laptops doing the same work. You have thinkers, you have artists, and you said it already. You have diversity in identity. And even some of that is sexual identity, and it's never thought of. It's almost like this is all the same. Could you explain why SIP attracts that kind of person, meaning someone who doesn't care?
Well, when I first started recruiting staff, I wanted them to have multiple identities and having different backgrounds, and because I felt that was the identity, and I felt after conducting a couple of interviews with the staff, and I was like, they were telling me I'm gay and it's difficult to get an opportunity, or maybe I have tattoos all over my arm and I need to buckle up my. I'm like, are you serious? And they're like, yeah, this is what goes on in Lebanon, and I went completely the opposite direction. It's because that's what I wanted for the place, and I think the area and needed that, and I think they needed opportunities as well, to be honest. And then when we opened, I had tattoos and piercing, and my staff were all colorful and blue and green hair, and it was fun, and they loved it, and people accepted it, you know. And I think in the area now, it's kind of common, yeah, to have the artist feel and the liberty that you can walk around in Jamaica, what Hala was talking about, and have that liberty and comfortable with it.
Do you think, I'm going to put this on you a bit, do you think SIP made that happen? Because I can't think of another place prior to SIP that was very comfortable with that image.
Yeah, I totally, completely. Humbly speaking, I think it actually did.
Did you think that that would happen, or is this really just you wanted a place that resembles the best in your intent
Exactly.
versus what you actually did
I
create?
didn't want to plan this. It's not like I planned to have that head up, but I think with my intent of just accepting everyone and being accepted in the area as well. I'm new to the area. I've never lived in Beirut or anywhere. I never even grew up here. So so I think it just panned out in that manner because I had good intentions in that from that part. You know what I mean? It was just pure out of good intentions for the staff, for the people, and how I wanted to live in Beirut as well.
I think it's definitely an irreversible change, and that's thanks to determination from one business owner.
Yeah.
I think it should be emphasized that this is very recent.
Yes.
People forget very quickly that Beirut, even Jamaica, is a fairly conservative part of this country, and suddenly it's easier and it's more flexible, and now we don't think about it anymore.
No. You walk around and you don't anymore. No, not really.
And I think that's our generation, and you left your mark that way.
Yeah.
People still go to every conversation I have about SIP, and it's usually within the vicinity of SIP, is that this is a very tolerant, very respecting environment. And I that's my way of also congratulating what you've done.
Appreciate it.
Now, Hala, I want to ask you a very personal question, because you mentioned this briefly, that by way of finding yourself into the yoga scene, you suffered quite a bit, and I'm going to put this on you. You lived in Saudi Arabia, and you're a lawyer by training?
And working.
And working.
Yeah.
And now you found your inner peace through yoga and Sarvam Yoga.
Sarvam.
Sorry, Sarvam. I keep saying Sarvam. Sarvam.
Sarvam, yes.
Sarvam.
Sarvam means complete.
Sarvam.
Total, complete.
I'm
Absolute.
dyslexic. Sarvam.
Yes.
I mean, if I were to sort of draw a line, it would not point in that direction. It would point in a very corporate, very Gulf-oriented, money-making career. And instead, this is I think, a far more rewarding career. But what took you to yoga exactly? What is the reason you're there?
At one point, I felt like I'm only serving one purpose, which is money. And I lost interest for that when I had it.
I see.
So I wanted a little bit more, something that actually changes people's life. And yoga did change my life in so many ways, physically, mentally. I was a person who had a lot of anger, a very anxious person. I suffered from back pain for so long. And yoga truly changed me from inside. So every practice and out, I was changing. And soon it became my reality and who I am. And I just wanted to give that to people. That comfort in their body and that comfort in their mind.
The anger, is that related at all to that kind of career? In other words?
It's many things. It's living and growing up in Lebanon. It can be stressful, a lot of expectations, which also make us sometimes do wrong choices because there's a bit of stress in the society in which you're not sure what you want to be, but rather at one point you think you want to be that because the society would look at you better if you're this. And when I chose to study law, it was from that perspective, thinking that I would look cool or that I was gonna look important or smart or whatever. And then when I did it and I was successful in it, I just didn't have the passion for it. So yeah, that was partially why I had a lot of stress, anxiety, the career itself, but also growing up in Lebanon can be pretty stressful.
Now, I like what you hinted as that you did make a financial footprint for your own life. In other words, you made money. It's not like you had the financial comfort. That was achieved, but that's not really what you wanted at the end.
No.
So it's good that you're able to find that out fairly early in life. Was yoga a natural conclusion, or did you sort of find yourself in that space? Because I think of it almost like it's almost an extreme coping mechanism to life in Saudi Arabia and stress of Lebanon, and suddenly you're...
So what happened, simply was I quit my legal job, and I'm like, what do I do now? And it came to me that the only thing that kept me happy for the past 2 years and was yoga.
So you'd already started that?
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
But in 2014, yoga was not popular at all. Especially in Saudi Arabia, it was underground. We were not allowed to practice.
Right.
And the location of the class would change every week secretly. We're not allowed to do any chanting or anything that makes any sound or om or anything. So it was really scary almost to go to a class. So
stressed yoga.
Yeah, stressed yoga.
Yeah.
I didn't care. It was the
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Even in Lebanon, there was just 1 or 2 small studios, so it wasn't really popular.
But
so I saw an opportunity also in that, not only that I loved it, but I saw an opportunity of actually bringing that to my country and making it more accessible to people. Because in 2014, when I did my training, yoga was more of a niche practice for people, for artists, for people who already knew what yoga was. So it was really not accessible, and people were not really interested. So when I opened the studio, I had to do a lot of awareness. What is yoga? Until today, a lot of people don't know. But today, I would say it's very accessible, which was
today,
not the case.
It's almost mainstream.
2016, when I opened, that wasn't the case at all.
So you took what you've discovered in Saudi Arabia in an underground scene and wanted to apply it here. Is that sort of...
I kind of learned alone, but I was doing some classes here and there. But no, I saw the need in Lebanon for that because I wanted to move back. And every time I would come here, I'm seeing how stressed people are, just like I was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is perfect. I have the solution for you people.
I'll never forget my own form of meditation, if you will. Several months ago at Sporting in Hamra, Ras Beirut, watching the sun go down, and I'm sitting at sort of the bar level, so you're a bit elevated. And in the distance, interrupting the sunset is you and your class. So decided to walk up towards the class and see what's going on. And it was the best decision. That's how you should enjoy sunset. A yoga lesson on the beach. And I think we said hello briefly. And it had that kind of impact. My mom is a very stressed person. I wouldn't say she's angry, but she's stressed.
Of course.
And she saw something there. It's like, oh, this could maybe help my stress. And I think a lot of people over the last few years, they've taken the benefits of yoga seriously. It's not considered a fringe activity anymore. Actually, I think
it's not a hype. It's a lifestyle today, for sure.
It's a lifestyle.
For sure.
I like that word, lifestyle. You set up a cafe. Let's say you're in the hospitality industry, but the cafe, Sip in particular, has a lifestyle element to it. You've got your lifestyle.
It's really mixed here, honestly.
Yeah.
We
tangled.
And then you're finding each other at Sip.
Yeah.
You fall in love. And you're married.
We have a kid.
And you have a kid.
Beautiful boy.
Thanks to Instagram, I know this.
James.
Yes.
Yeah.
He looks like both of you, actually. Yeah.
Well, okay, fine. No, I'm joking.
Watch him end up being a very conservative anti-yoga advocate. No.
Ronnie, the thing that attracted me the most to yoga, growing up in Lebanon, to be fair and honest, had a lot of taboos. There was so many cultural taboos. There was so many, you're not allowed, you're a girl, don't do this, don't do that, you should be this. Not from my parents directly, but the entire society felt that. And I saw a lot of freedom in the world of yoga. And I really felt that I wanted to give more of that to Lebanon. So yes, like we kind of brought that change here. Honestly, I feel so like when people come to Sarvam, they feel so free. They can be whoever they want. They can wear whatever they want. They don't need to have any brands on them. No one cares.
Yeah.
And that's truly what I wanted. So when I decided to open the studio, I also chose to have a humble space. So part of the design of the studio, I wanted a Lebanese house. I didn't want it to be overdone. I wanted people to feel like India, what India represents to people when they go there, like that humble feel, going back to the roots, forgetting a little bit about the social pressure, and that can be heavy in Lebanon.
What's interesting, though, what you said about taboo, places that offer an escape from the day-to-day stress, it's quite telling when those places, they're no longer the escape, they're actually the neighborhood itself.
It is.
And that really is the last few years, and it's a remarkable journey. I mean, we're maybe a little older than the average clientele of these places. And I know you have Sarvam Mini as well, so there's even the younger generation. But let's say we're the post-war kids turned adults that know a different Beirut. And I'm sure even from Australia, the stories you heard, it's not the Beirut that you know today. It's a different Lebanon. You know Ras Beirut and you know Jemaise, you know what today is like. This is really our generation's turn. And it's the last few years only.
But also, this is our bubble. That's not the entire reality.
Absolutely. You're right.
We choose to be around that bubble, that's very tiny bubble.
If I can think of one other profession or let's say industry that's caught on, it's the therapy-like sort of psychiatry, psychology. People are opening up more about their problems.
Yeah.
And people are becoming more comfortable expressing themselves.
True.
Yeah.
So that's the world I think we live in. In the last few years, if you could write a book about what it's like to open an independent business during this time of Lebanon's history, this is a story for the ages because it's not a neighborhood that's immune to our problems. It's a neighborhood that goes through transition.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'll just add one more
Please.
thing.
Yeah, sure.
It's not just tragedy. It's also
No.
euphoria. In a very short period of time, a place like Sip is part of Lebanon's largest demonstration. People are going in and out of Jemaise. Months later, the same location is destroyed. So I think this is maybe a nice segue to get into what it's like to survive here. But I interrupted you a bit, Omar.
Yeah, no. I think we always, how can I say, I just want to point out that Beirut really gives us a lot back as well, you know. I'm not talking about the government or financially, or if I go to Australia, maybe I'll be in a much more comfortable environment, maybe. But Beirut provides us a platform for the region, for our dream projects to come true, to be honest, you know. Not only for us, I think for a lot of other talented people as well in Lebanon. They you can really kind of create your dream project in Lebanon, be it a beach club, be it a bar, be it a coffee shop, be it a designer. Beirut really puts you on the platform for our region, and I think we always have to give that credit to Beirut as well, and to the people of Beirut, of how they accept things and a bit of change.
You know, this moment. No, please, go ahead.
No,
go ahead. No, I wanted to say, while we were talking, it's funny, I don't remember these things unless we talk about them. My two memories of cafe culture prior to Sip is Bread Republic and De Prague, which is gone.
Which is,
Yeah. Two
unfortunately.
people I met that have paid a price. De Prague, 2005, I briefly encountered Samir Asir. Briefly. Days later, he's killed.
Yeah.
This may have been 2009 or 10 or 11. My memory is not working. Ziad Douairi is sitting at Bread Republic. Years later, He's being arrested, interrogated, and now he doesn't consider Beirut home. To me, these are two important storytellers, filmmakers, journalists, writers.
I love his work. Yeah.
These are pioneers.
Yeah.
Totally.
One is dead and one is detached.
Yeah.
So I think it can also have the opposite effect.
It's true.
It has both extremes.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
It
But
makes,
you know, we're kind of sick of nagging
Mm.
because we had the option to leave. So today we're here by choice. So we're no longer victims. We choose to be here because it's also serving us in a way or another. Otherwise, we would have left. Yes, and after the blast, it was actually a tough decision to make. We didn't really want to stay. We stayed by kind of felt committed to stay and a little bit guilty to leave. It was more like that guilt towards your leaving your country and the people and the community you've created. But after that, it became a choice. So
let's talk about that choice.
yeah.
Between October 2019 and maybe January of 2020, I was recording live episodes in Jemaise, sometimes at Urbanista, sometimes without permission at Sip, just a microphone and but the thing is, no one would know because it was just full all the time. The protests outside,
Yeah.
the cafes are full inside, very loud, but loud in a good way. Meaning people are just going in and out of Martyrs Square. So for me, cafe culture was very important at that moment. Did you feel that? As somebody who's, maybe I'll start with you, Omar. Growing up in Australia, hearing about that sort of scene in Beirut, and suddenly you own a place that's playing, I think, a role in politics just down the street. Did you feel it then that this is something, in a way, you're capturing a moment of time? In
Yeah,
Lebanese history?
I think I don't know how much of a role we were playing, but we were playing a role because we were very, very close to it, and all the international press and reporters and everyone would consider SIP as a real hub around that area. And then I had a hotel as well, which is adjacent to it, and we were getting a lot of tourists back then as well. And
I like the very diplomatic speak. I had a hotel next door. It's like we don't mention that.
Yeah. Let's just keep the SIP.
We'll just sip. Yeah. It was always Sip.
Yeah, it was always SIP. SIP is where it's all started, actually.
That's true.
So
yeah,
that's true. So
something got lost on the way, but
yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Good call. So yeah, I think we were playing a big role. I was meeting a lot of people. We were both meeting a lot of people, and they would go to.
But we
yoga,
also
they
took
would
a stand a little bit.
And
yes.
So we actually, as business owners, we took a stand with the revolution. We wanted to be that. We wanted to affiliate ourselves with that. We believed in change to a certain point.
I want to get into that as much as, with your permission, about a film that has both of you in it.
Yeah.
Khalas with Daisy Jalon.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
Enough.
This is where my brain stops working.
yeah, if Daisy is watching this,
Bikaffi. Sorry. Khalas was that other slogan.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
Yes.
It's that you've lived here too
But
long.
enough is khalas.
enough is khalas. Yeah,
Enough
yeah.
is khalas.
Bikaffi Khalas.
Yeah.
The movie with Daisy about the elections.
Yes.
We'll get into that a little later, but you deliberately are taking a stand with the wider protest outside. But just in terms of having a place where news reporters are meeting, activists are meeting.
Yeah.
Some of my better audio episodes were with activists. They're now journalists. They have other jobs, but back then they were just filming and recording and being live, if you will. Did you feel that this is something that's playing a role, or was it really just, you have a place, I'm going to let it become that? In other words, how was your relationship to SIP? Forget that you're the owner for a moment, just what you saw inside. Did it feel like this is something that's...
I think we were playing a role because we've been interviewed for so many times with a lot of international press about what's happening. And yes, we did take a stand with the country, and we were voicing our opinion and our stance in what's changing, and we wanted that change. And I was all with the change, to be honest.
Yeah.
Regardless, irrelevant what's happened, what's happening now. But yes, I was very pro-change. And if you watch the movie, they initially they say I wasn't gonna vote, but then I voted.
Right.
comfortably and independent. And I was only gonna vote independent, and I've never voted in Lebanon before. That was the first time I voted, and I voted independent. And so yes, we were playing a big role in the area.
But you both decided to take that stand.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I was going I was going on the streets every single day, and I would invite my students to come with me. I wanted change, and I thought that I have a big platform. Might I as well like voice what are my beliefs and be part of the change and let my business help in this change. And it did in a way or another to a certain extent. I mean, in the best way possible.
so let's say you have your own business sort of footprint on the neighborhood. You see the protests outside and you take a decision to be openly supportive of change, what it meant at least 3.5 years ago to us, or maybe to yourselves.
Yes.
Months later, it's clear that things are not necessarily going the way they should. This is before the blast, but that the economy is sluggish. The protests did not yield that change at that moment. And I'm trying to now go back. It's a stagnation era.
Totally.
Prior to the
It
blast.
was tough also for the business.
Right.
Because we had to shut down very often because of like the things happening on the streets, and it was COVID times.
Of course,
And it was the time where it was pure, everything was still in lira. So the depreciation of the money was hitting us really bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a big stagnation phase, and it was really gray that time.
So this window of you can't meet because of Corona. You can't do yoga because of Corona. You can't. Sip cannot operate the way it operates because of Corona. I vaguely remember meeting outside Sip to get a coffee from the door.
Yeah.
And I was like, "This is my adventure today." You know,
Yeah.
coffee from the door.
Yeah.
And you're still here, but maybe it's becoming clearer that this is not going in a way it's not conducive for business, at least. Is there any moment prior to the blast that you thought this may not work out right, that you had this exit strategy or anything like that
We actually wanted to leave full on.
prior to the blast?
Yeah. We wanted to leave. We were
had
looking
these
at
moments.
our opportunities outside. But again, that's why I tell you today it's a choice, because we keep on choosing to stay here for so many reasons.
So it's interesting because the reason I'm building it up this way is it feels like the way you're describing this whole journey is that the blast made it clear that you're going to stay here. Didn't have the reverse effect of now we need to run away. It almost feels like
He wanted to run away.
Look, the first,
He packed his bags.
okay. So no, it's
I was injured. I still hardly can. I've done 2 operations in my hand, and
We stayed
some
in our
my
friend's
legs.
house for like 6 months. We didn't even choose to rent a house. We did not know what was next.
Yeah.
So there was a moment where you were thinking that's it.
Oh
Like-
no, we went to UAE. We did our residencies. We were ready to leave.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so that's even more interesting than that.
We were so ready to leave.
Even after all of that,
Oh yes,
you're still here.
yes.
Okay, so could you, as much as you can say about this window of you're abroad, you're in the UAE doing residency papers?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
she has
yes.
a residency in
You got the-
Dubai.
Talking
Yeah.
to investors, finding a location, ready to open for me at least, ready to open my studio there.
So let me ask you then, what is the decision to come back? Where does it come from? Because I didn't know it goes all the way there, that you actually made the steps.
Yeah.
What makes the decision then to come back?
Look, again, I tell you, we're building our businesses here. Yeah, Beirut is still home. Beirut is still home. Whatever happens, we're still at home.
But I'm trying to get
For
into
me,
the
it's
mental.
2 things.
Yeah.
First thing, it's not greener on the other side.
I see. Okay.
And the second thing is I feel like I've put a lot of effort and heart into building a community, and I stayed here in the hardest of times where like the economy had collapsed, the explosion, I had to rebuild. So it's too much to leave. It's something that is very dear to my heart.
Did you know this leaving? when you went to the UAE that this is just stalling? You're coming back because it.
No. At some point we were gonna bounce, but we were. Hala's so attached to Sarvam. I'm so attached to what I've built here as well. I walk into Sip and I love walking into Sip every friggin' day.
So if you could find one moment where you're like, this is not going to happen. We're not in the UAE. We're coming back to Lebanon. Well, is there something that happens to make that clear decision?
Yes, for me personally, it was. I realized it's not as easy to rebuild from zero. To be honest, I felt like the name I've created here and who I am and everything I built, I will have to redo that from zero outside, and it was too much work. And so, yeah.
So you realized this after.
But also, when the explosion happened, Ronnie, it was very emotional because we were so devastated. And 2 days after the explosion, we go online and randomly see it. There was fundraisers for both our businesses. A natural movement.
Without us
knowing.
Yeah.
And people were dropping money over, please reopen. It was just 2 days after the explosion. And that was heavy for us. We felt like we have a responsibility. We played a role in building that kind of free environment, and in my studio we have a huge community of people who really come in to let go and practice and be at peace. So I think people were scared that we would shut down and what would be left. So if we are to leave, and people who look like us would leave, who would stay here, right? So we really felt responsible for those people, for what we did, and we put a lot of heart and soul into it. So for me, it was a decision where I would come back, rebuild this, make it strong again, and then I would leave.
Oh.
But then I got stuck again. I opened another studio.
Yeah.
But it's a fast-forwarded version of our parents' generation.
Very much so.
Yeah.
It's the same story.
Very much so.
It's just compressed.
Yes.
Instead of 15 years, it's 3. But it's the same story.
It's the same story.
Yeah.
With my dad and with my parents. And it keeps on coming back to me every now and
then.
My dad left to Africa and came back, and he went to Australia and came back.
That's
and
home.
Now, and
it's home.
But
Lebanon
even
home.
the lessons learned on the way is our parents' generation.
We know them. We know what we're going to struggle with.
Exactly.
I know what's going to happen in the next couple of years, almost. I'm just saying. So we know what we're going to struggle with.
It's a deliberate decision to know that you've been told everything, how to avoid the situation, yet you're here. It's almost like it's the same story over and over and over.
Yeah.
بريئة شو بيقولوا لها بالعربي؟ خبرية بريء الذات.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It's true. It's the same.
I like that we're all going through this, knowing that there's a lot of generational memory and what our parents went through. Probably they knew it as well, that they would end up here at some point. Even if they get other passports, even if, Omar, Australia is another home, but you're here.
Yeah.
And Hala, I mean, you're not a citizen of the UAE, but you have residency now. You could.
But they also don't make it easy for us to leave. I mean, our money is blocked in the banks, right?
That's true.
So restarting is also not a piece of cake. So you have to really work hard to restart. So
Yeah, we did restart here as well.
Right.
After the explosion.
Okay, so this is the territory I want to get into. We know that we're not going to be financially well off in our lifetime. I mean, we're going to.
Thanks. I thought I would.
No. Let me say.
Good plans.
Sorry. Let me say it differently. Anyone that can survive this economic situation is a pioneer.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to ever have full financial comfort.
No. It's complicated.
And maybe it requires you have to be more creative and more patient, and maybe expectations diminish a bit, but there's something about happiness, I think, that's built into the story. Last week, I had an episode with Michel-el Hala. Maybe you know her. She runs Beirut Museum. She's a urban planner turned activist. She's an architect. She loves Beirut deep in her soul. She can't think of any other place to live. But she describes it as discomfort in place of real happiness. So in other words, she wakes up in the morning, she knows that she should be here. but she doesn't have a comfortable life. It's actually the opposite. It's discomfort. I feel this way. And I don't know if this is sort of resonates with you, that you're here and you live here knowing that it's going to be unstable. It'll never be fixed. This country will not work.
But who says that you're going to be any better outside anyways?
And that, yeah.
Like, even if you're comfortable doesn't mean you're happier, right? So for me, I came to a decision that I need to be happy where I am, wherever that is, and I'm here now, so I make the best out of it. And Beirut has a lot of good things that, like, you can make a lot of good things out of living here. It's complicated, it's hard, it's challenging, but there's nothing like waking up in the morning for me, going outside of my house in Gemmayzeh, walking the streets of Gemmayzeh into my studio, finishing my studio, going having a cup of coffee at Sip, where I see my students, and like that familiarity, that social life, it's really like
You can't beat it.
It's amazing.
I think you can't beat it.
Yeah.
I think, and everyone comes back to Beirut because they love feeling that.
It's like a big
Yeah.
heart. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
You can't beat it. Discomfort, yes. And I think before the explosion, the bubble was a bit bigger. You know? And
Yeah.
we were comfortable in that little bubble.
Yeah.
The explosion came. The bubble is just a bit smaller now.
Yeah.
You know? Yes, there is discomfort. Prior to the explosion, you were able to get around, get away with things, you know, electricity, fine. It was Chatah, whatever.
May I mention the last time I saw you was a
like
electricity wire that was burning, and like, and you were it's like
Yeah, well, I was, yeah.
You know, for me today,
fire
the thing,
extinguisher for your generator wire.
Yeah.
But I could tell, Omar, I could tell, even in that moment,
It was,
you were happy.
Yeah, I was fine. Man.
Because, yeah, and that's, I think, part of it too. There's no reason you should be doing that.
No.
Your place is about to burn down, and you're like smiling. You're like, hey, do you know a guy who can fix this? And I actually gave you
We
a
were
number.
cracking jokes.
Yes,
As well.
yeah.
But I mean, see, you get used to it. Yeah. Is it
I think for
discomfort?
me today, the only real problem in this country for me as a woman and as a mom is the lack of safety. I feel it's a no-law land, and that scares me. And that's something that I would reconsider staying here for, because that scares me. Like, I feel every week the country is becoming more and more unsafe. And we're making our bubble smaller to feel safe. And that's my real concern, is safety, actual safety of the streets, safety in our houses, explosions, blah, 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 all of that. This is my real concern in this country.
To take it a step further, I'm afraid that what you just said won't happen because you're already there. This city is already dangerous.
It is.
Yeah.
Violence is on the rise. Theft is the norm. You're still here. And I think it'll get worse, and you'll still be here. And that's part
Maybe.
of the story, too. Let alone the three of us. I consider Gemmayzeh home. I live in Omar Jheir. We survived the largest non-nuclear blast in modern history.
I was just lucky, man.
No, but the thing is,
With the explosion, I was just lucky.
you're lucky, but you're here.
Yeah.
You're here, I'm here. The three of us could have easily died
Yeah,
that
yeah,
day.
easy.
I happen to not be here that moment. I'm lucky. My apartment is destroyed. Actually, there's glass in the fridge still until today, which means glass
I get glass
traveled.
in my pockets sometimes up to now.
Yeah, even I mean, Sip. There's markings of
Yeah,
what
there are.
happened, and I think that's maybe partially deliberately, but
Some.
we could have all been dead had we been in Gemmayzeh Omar Jheir
And it's not a joke.
in a slightly different location. We survived. That is also, I think, it's going to take time to really process that. We're still here.
But we are very traumatized. It's not like it didn't affect us. Like, what happened in the earthquake brought all the memories back, and we were freaking out. Like, it's not a joke. We are traumatized, and it's deep in our subconscious, and we have a lot of new fears because of that explosion.
Can I ask, is yoga now more important to you, knowing that I'm going to assume the stress and anger levels cannot get higher after that kind of incident? Do you turn to what you do best now?
Yes, definitely.
So it's almost like
Yeah,
it's healing your own.
and our students, honestly, it's their therapy.
Yeah.
They need it as a dose of peace and inner peace to keep going.
There's something about, and I should not say it's just Sip. I mean, you're because you're really good at what you do, you now have Peck down the street, another restaurant just literally down the street. So that in itself is quite important. You've opened another place. Post-blast.
Post-blast.
Yeah, so that in itself is important.
He's opening a third one now.
Third one,
He's
a
a bit crazy,
speakeasy,
this
right?
one.
I don't know if I'm allowed to mention it from now, but yeah, there's a sci-fi
There's a sci-fi project. That we're working
project.
on, yeah.
So that in itself is quite impressive. But I think the fact that Sip today, when you walk in, it's not really obvious what happened. Sometimes you walk in, it's the same faces pre-blast. Sometimes it's the same sounds, it's the same garden, it's the same birds. It feels good that there's a normalcy that has returned to a degree. And I think that's important.
There's something that has changed.
That's something.
Beirut pre-blast and post-blast is not the same at all.
I agree. I'd like to.
We lost a lot of good people. We lost a lot of youth. And like the community in my studio has changed. And the faces I used to see in SIP, a lot of them are gone outside of the country. They left like very fast. There were 2 months after the blast where like a lot of people left. And like these were cool elements to have in the country. They were thinkers, they were creative people.
If you notice, the age group in Lebanon now is, if you
Skewed.
24,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
anything
much.
below, you don't see any. It's 24 to 35, 40. It doesn't exist anymore. To
Yeah.
be honest, you know.
That's why I date either older women or very younger. No, I'm joking. That's just partially true.
Joking.
Well, unfortunately, I've noticed the gap.
Yeah. So the gap is big,
The gap is big, but
and that young vibe
yeah,
that a 24 to a 35-year-old creates in a city keeps it thumping. You know, it's a vibe.
It's much better than what it used to be.
It is.
It was really dark for a long year after the
Yeah.
blast, like really dark.
This year is much
not
better
only
than last
really
year.
dark in the streets, but like
Yeah.
people were dark. We were dark.
post-blast and Corona carries on. So it's
Yeah.
not like
Yeah,
I mean,
no, the
it's-
blast was on another level.
Yeah. No, no.
COVID, people recovered faster, I think, at least. But it was the blast that killed the Lebanese souls for like a year after the blast. Like everybody was dead from the inside.
With your permission, then, I want to get as deep as I can into what you said during that movie, Bikafi, enough, and what you're living through right now. It's unfair to measure someone's words at a certain time, given that expectations may shift over time. And also things do change in this country rapidly. But I'm going to go back as much as I can and to what felt like a couple, and maybe Omar, maybe you a little more, saying, yeah, there is change on the horizon, to a degree. Maybe not full change, but you're sort of accepting of, yeah, there is something maybe here. And that's the message, I think, in the movie in general. It's trying to get skeptical voices to embrace elections and what elections means. And I think it's safe to say that a lot of us are disillusioned to different levels now. But I really want to ask you both, do you feel like that really was just a whimper at the end of the day? That there isn't much that happened as a result of either parliamentary elections or the wider message that was being shared prior to the elections, that we have it within ourselves to change this place?
It's getting worse, isn't it?
So you're able to say this now comfortably.
I think the worst thing that...
Politically, I think it's getting worse. I mean, I still feel there's something that's going to happen.
Yeah.
You
He's
know?
like, things are changing. I'm like, where, baby? I think you're delusional.
Changing for the worse.
No.
No. Oh, no.
No,
Oh, okay.
I'm a positive kind of
Yeah.
He's got a-
yoga effect on me, you know. It rubs off pretty good sometimes. Every day it's like yoga, yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, and I still feel there's something good that might change in the next couple of months.
Oh, that fast?
I my gut feelings. I mean, I'm
It's
just
the Saudi-Iranian agreement.
The readings. I'm just reading of, you know, the Saudi-Iranian deal. Something might happen. I'm not talking political.
Yeah,
I'm not a
I think
political,
what this revolution taught us is that change will not happen from within, unfortunately.
Oh, so this is actually
So
interesting.
it's kind of like a desperate moment to admit that we cannot make change. Change needs to happen from outside of this country, and it needs more powerful people. So I don't believe in the revolution anymore because we did our best. Like, we were all in, and everybody was all in, and like, we didn't see any change, honestly.
Not to make it about that movie, but only because that movie was sort of, it was shared a lot, and people were sharing it in a way of a positive message. Do you feel like what the feelings you shared then have shifted to the point that you say, well, it just doesn't add up anymore?
For me, yes.
Would you say the same thing, Omar? Or is that, because I like that you're slightly more optimistic,
I am optimistic.
but you're also optimistic for the reasons you're sharing. Hala, is that it's not about within, it's about abroad.
It's abroad. I think it's kind of clear as well. After I read the Iranian Saudi deal, I have my gut feelings is that something positive.
He
might
rented that
happen,
place straight away.
You know?
Oh, really?
No, that wasn't the reason.
It's like, done.
Somebody should be your advisor then. Because
yeah.
wait, Omar.
He's like, I'm going
hold
to put
on.
a down payment.
Yeah, let's get
Hey.
Omar, cancel.
yeah. So my gut feeling again, is it gonna change? But
Because change is, it's easy for things to get better. It's so easy. You just need a decision.
But that's not the message of the movie or the message of what we shared prior to the elections. The message was usually we have it within ourselves to make change possible.
That changed for me.
That changed, and very quickly then, within a year.
That changed. Because we were at the peak of the biggest revolution that ever happened in Lebanon. It was a big and real revolution. Like, some people said it was politically driven, and but we went down. We were there, so that's revolution. That's real. I'm real because I was going to the streets, and I didn't feel like I was making any change, or those who I believed in could make any change. So let it be, and we do our best to keep going. But we are hopeful because by nature we want to be hopeful.
It's very refreshing to hear this level of optimism, but not coming from within. And I think that may point at why a lot of people sort of let go of local aspirations. They're now looking at positivity from abroad. But it's almost like the same person, give them some time and breathing space, can say several things in a matter of years. It shows you how much Lebanon has changed. So it's not like three different people talking. It could be the same person feeling different ways in a very, very short period of time.
But you can see, I mean, we talk this about this all the time. I'm sure you talk it with your friends, say it with your friends and stuff, is that we know how fast Lebanon can change.
In either direction.
In either direction.
In either direction.
You know,
Crazy.
one political decision now that happens in Lebanon, and it can change. Is it going to be the next Geneva or no? We're not expecting that. Is that what, if you're expecting that, leave. Just leave the country. You know, because it's not going to happen. We know it's innate, it's in our nature that we don't live like this and we don't work like this. Lebanon doesn't work like this. There's many aspects, there's many things that don't work like this. So if you're looking for a slight, nice change for Lebanon, look, the best times of Lebanon, I think, was even with Hariri or without Hariri, but there was 10 years of beautiful time for Lebanon. And those years, I think, changed the Lebanese because it showed them what Lebanon can do.
Totally.
And what Lebanon really is, the potential.
Sorry, is this 1990s mostly?
No. After 1990s.
More like 2000.
More 2000.
1998 to 2005.
To 2005. No,
maybe.
more, I think.
Things
even
started
as
to
well
go down
when-
after the...
Up until 2010, 13. It was still fun. It was still up. It was still...
Not after 2005. Things were
Yes,
going down.
things started going down. But
So before we wrap it up, though, Omar, I want to get into this.
I'm not going to say a date, but what I mean to say is that Lebanon had its best time for a good 10 years, okay? And I think we all know the potential of Lebanon, and that's why we feel sorry about Lebanon. And that's why we feel that, why is this happening to us? Why is it? Why? Because we want to go back to those days because we know the potential. The positive side of this is that we can rebuild Lebanon. We can rebuild it in a matter of couple of months.
Because Ronnie, you know, as a human, what do you need? You need like to eat food, blah, 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 home, house, so that's money. And then you need safety, security. And then you need social love, life, blah, blah. So you have two big elements. Today, you have one big element, which is the social. And the potential, Omar, that was talking about, we saw it in those good years, that how businesses can actually make money in Lebanon. There is a huge potential if safety happens.
That safety thing, I think, is going to be an increased discussion because now it's been taken
Definitely.
as it's almost the norm now to expect
Yeah.
low-level violence. So I think that's
totally.
But
I walk around in the morning because I leave when it's still a little bit dark to go to my early morning class, and I walk around with what do you call it?
the pepper spray.
The pepper spray. Literally, I walk outside of my building like that. I'm ready for you. Literally, it's in my hand.
Yeah, this never happened before. Like
Those are usually the signs, I think, of things are reaching anarchy. So that's all. I worry that when we say we will leave when it gets too violent, it's already too violent. I don't know if it can.
It is violent.
It is violent.
it is violent.
But Omar, I didn't really get the chance to ask you. You grew up in Australia during the Civil War?
Yeah.
So 1990s, was that your first introduction to Lebanon?
90s, I was still in Australia.
You're still in Australia.
Yeah, I was still
Okay.
in Australia. Even 2000s, I was in the Gulf.
Okay.
And but then I started coming to Lebanon more frequently, and I got bit by the Lebanese.
But it's quite interesting you mentioned those years. Is that years that you would visit this country? Or
Yeah. Yes. So these are the years that I used to visit during those times.
Yeah.
And, as a foreigner, of course, as a tourist, I never lived here back in those days. But you could tell that things were okay. It was safe. It was fine. We always take the restaurants as a meter in Lebanon. Like, oh, things are going okay. Restaurants are doing well. La la la. But back then, it was safer. It was nicer. My parents live here, and they were far more comfortable being here back in those days.
so you had a reason to come back and visit.
So I had a reason to come and see my parents every now and then. But then after being far from Australia for so long and Lebanon, I never lived here really. So I wanted to feel home. And back in those days, I used to come to Lebanon and I used to feel like, wow, I really want to get to know the culture. I don't know the Lebanese. I don't know how it works. We hear about it. I hear about it so much. But I really wanted to get into the culture and understand how everyone lives daily and what their struggle was. And don't ask me why I wanted that, but I really wanted to understand because I wanted to feel.
You understand
like
now?
I understand it quite well after the explosion and.
But you saw potential as a visitor.
Yeah.
So is that part of the reason? I mean, you choose to settle here.
Yeah.
Fairly recently.
Yeah, but I saw potential at work as well. Even back before, now I haven't felt this for a long time, but even before the explosion and before the revolution, Lebanon had a lot of potential. If you had come down and you look at Lebanon, and there's still so much to do. Even back in the days, there was still so much to do. There were still so many gaps that you could really fill and operate and work, and you can actually build a proper life in Lebanon back in the days.
To individuals.
Am I being too positive?
No, I mean it's.
Tell me if I'm being too positive.
No. I mean I can understand your individual reasons for wanting to retreat from law, finding money is not the satisfying goal, and searching for a remedy to inner discomfort and anger, and you find the perfect way to do it. You set up your own yoga studio, and you're also doing it now professionally. But I'm trying to think, what is the individual reason for you? Because 2017, Sip opens.
Yeah.
Why are you in 2017 here? Is there something that you didn't find in the Gulf?
Well, I wanted to, as I was saying, I wanted to move to Lebanon.
I think if he wasn't married to me, he would have been out, to be honest.
Again, yeah.
Because he wanted, we got stuck during COVID, before the blast in Australia for 5 months when the airport closed.
I see.
And he was leaning to stay. So It's easier for him.
It's easier for me to leave.
It's easier for him to leave. It's
Yeah.
harder for me to leave.
So the love is what kept you here.
Aww.
No, that's quite
It's all
nice. I
about
would
the
never
love.
know
It
this.
is. It is kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Because I feel like a stranger outside of Lebanon. So, yeah.
You found a way to pursue your own path, and you found a way also, Omar, to pursue a path alongside someone finding their own path.
Yeah.
It both by chance ends up around the corner in Jemaise. You're both still there. I see you frequently, Omar. You seem to be in your element when I run into you. Hala, when I run into you in different places, you also seem to be doing just fine. And now you have a child. You're raising the next generation together. I want to wrap it up with this. You know all the reasons why someone should leave.
Yeah.
And you know all the reasons someone should stay. Do you imagine having this conversation later with your children?
Honestly, I don't
And
want him
you're-
to be attached like me to this country. It's not a good relationship. It's pure attachment that doesn't make so much sense sometimes. I don't want him to be that attached. I will work on that. I will make sure that my son is not that attached to this country, because it can be a little bit your bad boyfriend, this country.
Or your good husband?
Or your
Thanks, Ronnie.
So yeah. So the reason why, because I'm too attached and it's hard for me to leave, I choose to stay. But if I wasn't that attached, it would have been easier to leave.
So the message you would give, and maybe he can watch this years from now,
Habibi.
is that you would try to tell your son not to get too attached
Totally.
to a place you've deliberately attached yourself
You
to.
don't want to be attached to anything, really, to be happy in life. So that's ideally what I would tell him.
But then wouldn't that make more sense for you to be in Dubai? To have that kind of role
Yeah, but
model?
honestly, I felt it wasn't that easy on many levels, like as an entrepreneur. So I'm not a employee. And Dubai is not an easy place to compete. And Dubai, and I've already shined here. It's hard for me to redo that in a place like Dubai. I'll be very honest with that.
I have a feeling you'll be telling your son,
Stay.
don't be attached. No. He will be telling his children, don't be attached.
Yeah,
I think our
No.
parents...
My parents didn't give me the opportunity to. They were too busy trying to find a good living for us, So they couldn't focus on pushing me to explore the world and do this. So I had to do this on my own when I started my yoga journey, which was a bit late, because for the first 25 years of my life, I was just pursuing a career and trying to do what I thought was the right thing to do. And then I started discovering the world and pursuing my yoga journey and meeting people from everywhere in the world that look so different. And I would try to incorporate that for my son at early years. And that, and meeting people from different countries, that's really interesting, which I think we don't get at all in Lebanon. And I want him to have that. I want him to open his horizons and not be attached like I am.
I can't wait until I'm in my 70s and he's the owner of Sip. And I'm like, guess what your parents told you?
Moved on from that.
No, the guys are there in the back. You're like, guess what? We're still here.
We're still here.
But Omar, maybe I'll give you the last word then. What would you tell your son later in life? Is it the same kind of message? Or maybe you don't see eye to eye on this?
Do I see eye to eye? No, I think we do. I do see eye to eye with this with Hala. Do I want him to be attached to Lebanon as much as Haida? Not really. I think we're aligned with this. Maybe I want to give him a different experience rather than just being Lebanon. Maybe live abroad. It could be Europe, it could be anywhere else, to be honest. But I would give him another opportunity, or to widen his thoughts and experience, and not keep him just locked in Lebanon. So I hope I'll be able to provide him that opportunity as well.
What I appreciate about this is the level of honesty.
Yeah.
It's that you can say two things at once. You want to be here.
Yeah.
That's called
But see,
schizophrenia.
No, really. And,
Schizophrenia.
and even in the same conversation,
Lebanese
we can all admit that there's something wrong in the equation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yet,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you didn't leave.
Yeah.
You are here. Whether you try again, whatever, you are here right now.
Yeah. We're well invested here, Ronnie.
We're rooted.
You're rooted.
We're really invested here. So.
And in that love story, and I think it is it's an expression of love at its core, you're also able to say you don't want your son to have that kind of attachment too. It's almost like a recognition that this is not good, but you're here despite it all.
Self-sabotage.
Maybe that's the name of this episode.
No, it was also like, for me, it was a bit of a chance that I was here. Like, for me, I didn't feel when I quit my legal career that there was any other place that felt like home. But if I had the opportunity to feel that, maybe I wouldn't make that choice. So I made that choice because this was home. And then I am responsible for that choice now. And I have to be committed to what I've created, right? But
I think that's a better name. Feels like home.
Feels like home, yeah. No, Lebanon is home. It will always be home. And I want my son to feel at home here because there's something also so interesting in being brought up in Lebanon. It's very, you grow a bit of tough skin, which is good for you. You're so immune.
It's very schizo. I mean,
Yeah.
I think everyone feels the same. It's not, you know, I think
Love,
if
hate.
you're watching this, I think you would feel exactly what
Sah.
we're feeling. Whoever is watching this, I think they would feel and they would relate. It's an everyday conversation between a husband and wife.
We talk about
or
that
maybe
very
boyfriend,
often. Staying,
girlfriend.
leaving.
We talk about it daily, and sometimes it's an on, sometimes it's off, sometimes it's, you know, it's just when's it gonna happen and how is it gonna happen.
I want to add one thing.
Please.
It's people like you also that keep us here. So the same way you feel about us, we feel the same way about you. And it's that bubble that's keeping us really rooted here. Like, we are grateful for everyone who feels like us and choose to stay here, because Lebanon wouldn't be the same if people like us leave. People who believe in freedom, people who believe in diversity and living in a cosmopolitan country, who do not care about what you look like, what's your sexual attraction, what's your name, what's your color, what you dress up like. And that's my ideal Lebanon. So people like us, stay, don't leave.
Hala, you found a way to bring it full circle. Where it started, my experience with both of you is in that kind of institution. I'll say it's an institution. A liberal, free-thinking, cosmopolitan cafe that brings you together. It brought me to you, Omar. And it means a lot that we're able to explore this here on MTV. With that, thank you, Hala. Thank you, Omar.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Hala.
That was a pleasure.
Sarvam Yoga, RV, and
Sarvam.
Omar, owner of Sip and Peck, and a speakeasy that has yet to open in Saifi.
Yeah,
I look forward to that.
inshallah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.